the walkway? So workshop kickoff, and then the tour.
So inside we have our activity boards and we have information about the island that's just kind of scattered around the stables. So feel free to go inside. We have a lot of team members around to also walk you through.
Diane. She's here. Good to see you again. This is a kind of nature journal.
I was asked to, I guess we're all right down. Bridal path. Yeah. I won't be able to give anybody the history. I'll do it closer.
Theoretically, it's part of the ending. Sounds great, you know?
Perfect. If it's a good story, you know, that has the two ways.
Testing. That's good.
It's hard for me not to want to tell people.
We're going to go later.
That's why I put don't overdo it right there.
I want to say no.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Monica McNally, and I'm chair of the I'm chair of the Great Island Advisory Committee. And I have a lot of. I'm not going to speak a lot, but I'm going to say a lot of thank yous. So first, I'm going to say thank you to all of you for coming out. This is the very beginning of the process. There will be 4 of these workshops, but they will evolve. And so for you to be here at the very beginning, we really, really appreciate it. I also want to thank Jen Fava, our Park and Rec Director, and her team for helping get this set up. I want to thank the Department of Public Works and Tony Campanella specifically for all they do, keeping this island looking the way it does.
Tony!
Thank you, Tony.
And I want to give a really big shout out to the Great Island Advisory Committee. So there are 9 people on this committee, 4 residents. In no particular, I'm going to try to go alphabetical, but Bruce Ferguson, Dan Kolakowski, Jeff Table, and Kip Vesey are our residents that volunteer. There we go. And then we also have 4 people from the from our elected officials. So these are officials that they all have regular jobs, like 9-to-5 jobs, and then they all are very, very important on a variety of committees. So Jim Palin helped me tremendously on the purchase of this property, and he also is the chair of Board of Finance. Lori Bora is the chair of the Park and Rec Commission. Mike Burke and I sit on the Board of Selectmen. And we had final approval from the RTM, so thank you all you RTM members, and thank you Mark Adaletta for being on our board and the liaison with the RTM. So the Great Island Advisory Committee meets at least every Wednesday. We meet many, many, many more times than that. So all our meetings are on video. So thank you to Jim Cameron and TV79 for taping them. You can find all of those on the website. And we've worked really, really hard over the last 6 months, I think, maybe a little bit more, trying to choose the perfect landscape architect firm and team to lead this project. And this is going to be a multi-year project. The vision and master plan is going to take 1 year in and of itself. So I really, really want to thank the committee for helping to identify what I think is the very, very best firm for this project. I couldn't be more excited to say thank you to Reed Hildebrand and introduce Becca Sturgis. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, and thank all of you for coming today. We are beyond happy, thank you, George, for relieving me of my tour signs, that you have all come out. I know it's a little bit hotter in this court than maybe is comfortable, but that said, we really want to welcome you, and we want to introduce you to the island and to various aspects that we all need to understand to make good decisions about its future. And so with that in mind, we have organized a set of activities that we want you to participate in. And so one of those activities is a set of tours that will be going starting at 2:30 in 10-minute intervals. Continuously, starting as soon as we stop speaking, members of the Great Island Committee will be leading tours of the bridal path. So if you don't mind raising your hand, Jim and others who will be glad, Jeff, thank you, to just walk all of you as you like around the about to be opened bridal trails. Please do enjoy that experience. And then super, super briefly, we're not going to talk through the entire process, but today is the launch not just of our outreach in action, but our website. And so the website is now live. There is a survey, which you can see the QR code right outside the gates. We really enthusiastically encourage you all to participate in that survey. There will be, if for some reason you don't like the QR code and you want a URL, when you go to the website after the meeting today, you can get the URL on the website and provide your survey responses that way too. The survey will be open for 3 weeks, so you have 3 weeks to answer the questions, to return to your answers, to get your friends and family and other residents that you want to participate to respond. Please do that. We really want a very high level of participation and response from all of you. So we're off to a phenomenal beginning today with people turning up at Town Hall and here, and we just want to take it from there. There are a few other things that I want to mention. It is hot in the center. It is a little bit cooler under the shade of the stables, and there's all these questions and information over there. So make sure that you take advantage of all the aspects here. And then I'm briefly going to hand it over to my colleague, Meg Griscom from Reed Hildebrand, who is also working with me, Becca Sturgis, to run this project. Here you go, Meg.
Thank you, Becca. So we're just thrilled to see so many of you here today. Thank you to all of you who joined us at the session this morning. We had a lot of great discussion, got a lot of great feedback. And again, the intention for today is to duplicate that process where we provide the opportunity for each of you to walk through each of our stations relative to programming and finance, ecology, water access, architecture, etc. Please make the loop. Please visit all of the boards, read the questions, place stickers where you think you would like to see different activities here on Great Island so that we can capture your feedback. Additionally, as Becca mentioned, we do have a website that was launched today, which will have a link to the community engagement survey. Please do take that survey. It's so important for us to capture your feedback from you, the constituents and members of the town of Darien, about what you would like to see here at Great Island. It is a phenomenal place. We want to make sure that we hear each of you, that we are able to incorporate your comments, so please, please do give us your thoughts and your feedback. Additionally, we do have this, which you received as you walked in. Please do leave any thoughts or comments as you observe or walk through the space, and leave your thoughts and comments in the suggestions box. We would really welcome that. And then most importantly, we want you to take some time and look at the model here that we have in the center of the space. We do appreciate it is hot, but this will give you a very real, three-dimensional understanding of the terrain of Great Island, which is just spectacular. So please do, as you look at the model, Feel free to write any thoughts or comments that you have down about what program you might like to see where on the island. We also have a boat making station, so please do visit the boat making station, make a little boat, color it in, and put it in the water around the island. We would love to have that happen. Anything else? I think Monica has a couple more comments before we wrap it up, but thank you all so much for coming. Please do give us your feedback, and we look forward to seeing you at our next community engagement session on November 9th.
I was going to go inside this building, but we're also strained for time, and my sense is that many of you have already been inside this building. Is that true? Yes. Okay. And maybe I'll ask, has anyone, is this the first time to Great Island for anyone in this group? Yes. Okay, great, wonderful. And then presumably others have spent a lot of time here. Have others been inside any buildings other than the stable? So a couple people have been inside some of the buildings. Okay. So again, we were not able to do that right now, but we're lots of logistical reasons, safety and other things. But we'll actually get a chance to really look closely at the main house. So let me actually begin. I was just given this. Linda is with us today and has written a book that is very, it's literally, this is on its way to our office and to our research library. But this is the Ziegler. This was the company that the Zieglers founded, and which really produced this great estate.
This is baking powder monk.
Baking powder monk. Yeah.
Can you show it this over here? I have some cards also.
Yeah. And you'll be on the tour with us. Yeah. So I thought it would be valuable to begin. The Ziegler moment is what we'll see most of, but just to touch on the pre-Ziegler moments, plural. And we know a little bit about the Native American tribes that were here. They were largely seasonal, we've come to believe, and that they would fish in the warmer weather in these islands and then move inland during colder weather. Part of the Siwanoy tribe, part of the Wappinger tribe. And obviously through the 17th century, at which time the English largely controlled Darien, and this land was deeded to the Selleck family, who held it for centuries. They were farmers and became mariners and were trading off of the land largely by water, and it was then traded to the property was sold in the early 19th century to another landowner who 40 years later sold it to William Ziegler Sr. of the baking powder, Royal Baking Powder Company.
When you say this land, is it just this peninsula, or is it all the way up Long Neck Point?
It's really the whole Long Neck Point Peninsula. Most of that was Ziegler Hold. The first building to talk about is the one you've all just been in, the stable building. And this is the second stable on the island for the Zieglers. This is the first. This is the first building. The Zieglers, William Sr. and Jr., the family for a long, long time has been interested in horses and equestrian life. I think the family subsequently went on to participate in the U.S. Olympics, equestrian riding, dressage, other different activities. It was very important to have a barn. The first barn that was built concurrently with the house, 1903, 1904, 1905, burned down rather soon after it was built. It was a cataclysm, obviously, that precipitated 1915 the construction of this building, which was the remit here was to build a fireproof barn, fireproof stable for the horses. Never again would the horses and the equestrian interest perish with a fire. So this building, its beautiful, luscious vaults are really there to prevent fire. They're all masonry construction. The attics of these buildings are all made out of metal and terracotta, so there's no timber that's used in the construction of this barn at all, which is quite extraordinary. So exactly, no, it's exactly right, and many of us, know well the tile is a construction system that was the Guastavino Tile Company, the Guastavino Fireproof Building Company, was brought in under the direction of Harry Knowles, who was the architect. And this is some familiar Guastavino tiles, which for us it's the most immediate, maybe in Grand Central Station. The Boston Public Library, built in the late 19th century, is largely structured with Guastavino tiles. It's a rather ancient technique that came out of Moorish architecture that then flourished in Spain. Guastavino left Spain and brought with him this technology, which became actually fabulously adapted to industrial growth in America. So we see it in state capitals and industrial buildings, train stations, museums, etc. And we have a magnificent example of it here. So I'm sure you all have appreciated its beauty. But again, in Ziegler's mind, the primary role of this tile and this vaulting is to avoid any kind of timber construction that would burn. So it was to protect the horses. Yes, and so, yes, this was originally a set of apartments for grooms and stable masters who worked on the property, and have been apartments until very recently, actually.
Are they also tiled?
No, they're more conventional, but still made of these terracotta construction. So again, there's really nothing flammable here. That was the remit. So let's, in the interest of time, we're going to just start to move. And you can see that the riding ring here obviously is very close to the stables, and this was such an important part of life for the Zieglers. They were, extraordinarily interested in horses and dogs, actually. So we don't see it today; it's gone. But there was a really quite extraordinary kennel, and they bred setters and showed setters, and I understand they were really the preeminent breeder of setters, English setters. And we're looking beyond and seeing the dock, which is, of course, still used as a dock. And I understand that is the fireboat. And many of you, I'm sure, have moored in that beautiful boat. What we don't know is what this land looked like prior to the Zieglers in the very early 20th century. But there's a speculation that this would be so natural, and we saw it in some of the diagrams that Reed Hildebrand presented, that this was an inlet and perhaps even an oyster bed. To the right is the what we call the White House, which the core of which, and there's not much left of it, but the core of that house is thought to be from the early 19th century, 1820s, and it's been added onto in several different campaigns. But maybe some of you may know the history of that building more. I'd be fascinated to know about it. But this has been occupied by the Ziegler and Steincross family until fairly recently. So we're coming into what is called the carriage house, and obviously its use is very clear. It's built very much of the same hand as the stable, and so it allows us to assume that it is the work. We know that the stable was designed by Harry Knowles, who was an architect that's not particularly well known. He's I think his most prominent work were Masonic temples, and the Zieglers were all Masons. So we've made assumptions that that was the connection, and how Knowles was brought as a fairly young person to design many of the buildings on site, which we know for sure included the stables, which feel very confident included the carriage house here, and we're equally confident, though not verified, that it was that he designed the original manor house where we'll be heading to. And we won't go inside this building, but it's largely a single space, the same remit as the stables, fireproof construction. However, there are no vaults in this. It doesn't have any of that curvilinear architecture. So I thought we would move up what's called the amphitheater, these terraces, and we'll have to just step aside these barricades to go up towards the main house. Yeah. The contraption is no longer there, but the footprint of it is very clear. How it actually operates. So please be very mindful as you go up. So this was a path that connected the manor house with the stable and the carriage house. We pass this around, but I hope you can see this, and I'll pass it around so you can see it better. But this is what the original house looked like. So what do you? There seems like there are a lot of different. Excuse me. A lot of things that are different about this, and I wonder what particularly people are seeing. So, Yep. So you're saying it all correctly. That the porch entirely, the whole third floor is gone. The very characteristic columns that we all saw as we came in at the gatehouse, or what they called the lodge, that exists in the stables, the sort of stacked masonry. Well, so I think that I even have a hard time categorizing this. We sort of use a Queen Anne as a kind of catch-all because it's got a lot of different stylistic influences. And again, this is designed by, we believe, and we're trying to verify that, but Harry Knowles, who again is quite a young architect and may have met Ziegler at a Masonic function. And I'll pass this around so you can see it. But we do know that when William Ziegler Jr. Was first married to his first wife, at that time they had started to visit Florida, and I became acquainted with Addison Meisner, who some of you may know. Addison Meisner, he's associated with the Weyburn Club, and I think it was exactly the time that Ziegler brought Meisner from Florida to work on his house and Weyburn and probably other projects, I would surmise. It was, I think, driven by an interest in restyling this house. And he did it with, quite assertively. So the roof is dramatically changed, and lop the whole third floor off the building. We don't. It could have been that there was a fire on the third floor. There could have been some practical reason that initiated the transformation. We don't yet know, but we speculate that maybe not. That in fact it was a real interest in changing the character of the house itself. But with it came, to me, puzzling. We think that this was of the generation of the Meisner edition. So elevating this wall quite a bit higher, so it's not simply a platform on which the house is built, but really obscures largely the view and separates the approach is far less generous. The door gets dramatically smaller. Lots of features to the house that maybe are a little unexpected and still to us a little inexplicable. But you can see very clearly the masonry. There's one character of masonry, for instance, down here. Very tight bonded, carefully cut stone. We're told that this is quarried from the site. We haven't been able to confirm that yet, but we're told that it's quarried from the island. And then a much more loose laid stone rubble above it. Same stone, we think, but not at all the same hand. And maybe even a deliberate interest in distinguishing the hand. So we'll continue to walk along this wall, and then we'll tuck into the opening here.
Fix this.
So questions about initial thoughts as to what to do with the house, and I think it's probably important to say that the house hasn't been occupied since the death of Ziegler's second wife in '74, I think, at which time we were told literally drop cloths were placed over the furniture. The family didn't, they weren't even prepared to disassemble the house. They mothballed the house, and thus began, 50 years more of total non-occupation of the house. There had been a caretaker that I think was looking after certain things, but by and large the house was abandoned. And it's not much, really nothing has been done since that time. So there's a lot of research that has to happen in order to understand what state the house is in. And then of course we're going to be very interested in testing different uses, future uses for the potential future projects. And if you have in your mind an image of the front that we just saw, and you hold that in your mind's eye, and now you look here, we're starting to see a terribly different architectural character established. This is very much the work of Addison Meisner.
This is Romanesque.
My understanding is, yeah, in the older parts of it, yeah. Okay, so this is early 20s. The adaptation of the house is really early 20s. But when the roof is lowered and the walls are built in front, the eave that you saw with the brackets and such, the Spanish tile roof, that is all added in the early 20s. So the wine, there's a second wine cellar. It's filled with bottles of wine that I'm told are spoiled, unfortunately. So this is what this building looked like at the time of completion. William Ziegler Sr. knew this building in my hand, which is again very, very different than what survives today. And I'll pass this around.
Are any of the structures here on the National Historic Register?
Are any of the structures on the National Historic Register? No, not to my knowledge. And again, just to name that we have the center block, right, which is the most of which is the original Ziegler building. You'll see it go around these things. We have the Meisner addition to the left, which is something close to a freestanding villa. It is linked with a little loggia to the main house. And then we have a caretaker's cottage to the right, which is actually still occupied.
The light?
Yes, where you see the porch light, exactly. And then there's a octagonal, it's obscured by the bushes, but an octagonal breakfast room that was added as they removed two mostly wooden porches from that flank the central bay. It was the first wife who had this great interest in this Floridian architecture and Spanish architecture of Addison Meisner. A second wife came onto the scene. One presumes that she had a different flavor and taste and ambition for the house. So they brought William Lawrence Bottomley. Do any know William Lawrence Bottomley? He's a superb architect. Not as well known in this part of the woods. He's really more associated with Mid-Atlantic, based in Virginia, but built a magnificent Neo-Georgian home for the Zieglers on 63rd Street, which stands today. And he was brought in as well to do a number of interior alterations, most notably the dining room, which has a kind of neo-colonial character, set in a otherwise more Spanish colonial interior. So there's and then with the residue of the original construction from 1903. So like the exterior, the interior has this bouquet of different flavors and styles that are all, interestingly juxtaposed with one another. But there are a series of really magnificent bedrooms up above. What we think might have been the master bedroom originally was located in what was a tower once. You'll see that in the photograph, but is now simply just a projection bay that has the wrought iron balcony. But clearly, at a moment, there was the main bedroom was moved to my left and had access to a larger projected balcony supported by those arches. It was then later connected to the Meisner wing in the early 20s.
Are the chimneys original from the old house?
Great question. Are the chimneys original from the old house? They're not. They're not. So, the original house would have been 1903. We think that these chimneys came with the new roof, so it would be early 20s.
Why would he introduce brick? There's no brick in the house.
Right. Right. They were originally stone.
Yeah, and the picture is stone.
Yeah. They were originally stone, and why brick? It's a great question. It's a little bit of a puzzle. I'm not sure that they're altogether better with the terracotta tile. We're running late, but we're going to continue, and we'll have a glimpse of a series of recreational buildings and structures that the Zieglers created for themselves, came off of. We think, no, it was originally heated by coal. How do we know that? Because there's still coal inside in a coal bin. So if anyone wants coal, talk to Monica. But it subsequently is heated by I believe oil, but I'm not even sure. It's definitely defunct, the heating system. Oil-fired steam, yes, it's steam, but it's the energy source is heat. I believe in this case oil. So this might be a good prospect if we go closer, but you have to be very, very careful because it's a precipitous drop. In front of me, now behind me, you can see the footprint of the tennis court. So until fairly recently, there was a tennis court here with fencing and such. I think that it hadn't been maintained for a long time. We were told that actually the deer, of which there are many on the island, would assemble in the evenings inside the tennis fence and be therefore protected. It was really kind of lovely idea. So this is, fairly recently, the edging has been removed and the fencing removed and the surface transformed. No, I was told it was a clay court, but I'm not sure if that meant red clay or hartrue. There was, surely a century gone, glazed conservatory that was attached to the house up here, which was quite romantic, Victorian shapes on the skyline. Bald eagle nesting.
Where?
In this, I think actually very close to this little clearing. Is that right?
I think it's like here.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yes, we do a lot of historic preservation.
and also closer to the water.
No, I mean, but I'm not. There are very few of these come along. There, we've done a lot of work on large estate houses, for instance, of the early 20th century, and trying to think about adapting them. So we've done things like this, but never could imagine a site like this. Darien is so fortunate to have this amenity. And you know, never is the estate as well as intact as this is. That aerial photo, I think, is so interesting from the 20s to today. It's really not different at all. Whereas other settings, you know, there would have been subdivisions and other transformations that.
When do you think the public will be able to go into the housing? A year from now, 2 years?
It's a good question. When do I think the public would be able to go into the houses? And I don't have a great projection about that. They all need a lot of work to make them sound and safe. And I'm sure that will be the primary concern of Darien. So it might be longer than that. Certainly the stable building is the one that's most fit and ready to go, although itself needs a lot of updating, bathrooms, things like that. But and the carriage house is simpler building, but is something that more simple approach to making that safe. Again, the number of ventilators, they're all different on this island, is really fantastic platter of delicious architectural delights. Pastry, exactly. So, and they kind of don't stop. Every time I come, I see a new one. Same thing with doors. So many of you saw stable doors, the Dutch doors, the big sliding doors that have the door inside them. Here's another. There's a door panel inside those sliding doors. It all works. The hardware. I think in our houses we would wish that the hardware would work as well as this 100-year-old plus hardware